I'm attorney Michael Tyler, bringing you guests and information to help you get legal. Hello, and thank you for joining us for another installment of Get Legal. I'm your host, attorney Michael Tyler. Today we're going to be talking about something that is important to everyone, and that's credit. Usually when a prospective client comes to my office and there are credit issues involved, it's usually because either one, they owned a business, the business has now failed, they do not have income coming in, so therefore they cannot pay their bills, which impacts their credit negatively. The other thing is either they're divorced, and with that we have the splitting of the assets since Louisiana is a community property state. Sometimes that causes one spouse to take on more debt than the other as a part of a community property settlement. When that happens, could have issues with income, which causes then credit scores to go down. And then another issue that we can face with respect to bad credit is if an employee is terminated or laid off from a job. In that instance, they don't have income coming in, which causes them to now not be able to pay their bills, which causes their credit to go negative. When those instances happen, sometimes I just simply refer them out to see a bankruptcy attorney because usually that is the best option for them. Now, I don't do bankruptcies myself, but that is something that is available. However, today we're going to talk about some of the things that might help people to stay on track with respect to credit. And that now allows me to welcome aboard my guest today, Mr. Bennett Blackledge. Mr. Blackledge works over at Gulf Coast Bank and Trust Company. Mr. Blackledge, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
If you would, just tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been in banking for 38 years. Started doing these types of seminars, what I call financial wellness, in 1982. And what I do for the bank, I've done many jobs throughout my career at the bank, but now I'm working with the community, and we actually go out and teach different financial wellness, everything from credit, home ownership to retirement. We work with not only the local churches and schools, but we also work in the prison systems. We've got a program, work release program, that we're working with them. It's a 6-classroom, 12-hour program that they do while they're in that 2-year program. So, but most of my day is really community outreach and just talking about credit and the things that we'll be talking about.
Now, this idea of credit, which is, although in some respects a fictional concept because we can't necessarily put our hands on credit, but it can have effects that are tangible in nature. For example, a lot of people don't understand that credit can affect where you live within the society that we have. Mm-hmm. It can affect not just the things that you can acquire, but the price that you pay to acquire those things.
Absolutely.
So therefore, credit is very important, wouldn't you say?
It's very important. And what's so interesting is when I was a 20-year-old, it was only for the item I was trying to purchase. Today, it impacts your car insurance, homeowners, like you said, everything. And that's why it's so critical that folks realize it's all about their cost of funds and then actually being approved. You could lose a job because of a credit score, especially if it's financial handling. You know, if you're working for a casino or banks, you know, if someone's got a bad score and it's a financial handling position, you might not be hired for that job based on a low score.
And you and I were talking beforehand, and I guess to lead us into the path of getting to discussing credit. One of the things that you mentioned to me was the importance of budgeting.
Absolutely.
How important is budgeting when it comes to either maintaining or improving your credit score?
It's absolutely critical. What I noticed when I work with couples and companies and employees of companies, when I sit down with folks for us to talk about their credit, what I early on, I realized they don't have a budget, and when you look even further, they don't know how to do a budget. So what that budget does, you know, basically, I can show you the direct correlation. Folks that have a budget, they have budgeted their payments to be paid on time. And if you think about credit, one of the biggest components of the 5 components that make that beacon score is paying on time. 35% is paying on time. So you got to have that budget. We got to put a name to every dollar we spend in that budget. and it's critical to stick to the budget. And you just have to make sure. But absolutely, those people that are using a budget almost every time, they have higher scores than folks that aren't using it, because you just forget about it. And when you forget to pay something, that's when the score starts dropping.
That is correct. With respect to budgets, is budget something that you would more so recommend to low-income earners, or is budgeting something that you would say recommend to everyone, irrespective of what your level of income is?
It would be everyone. Matter of fact, in most of my dealings, the higher income earner, the person making, 30 to 40,000 a year, are doing a better job of saving than the folks that are making over 200,000. A lot of times they're spending it as fast as they make it. That person, the lower, they're making sure they're putting it in categories. They're making sure they're thinking about retirement, children's college funds. And what's so important in that budget process is that you include all of the things. For example, we should all have an emergency fund. 6 to 9 months. A lot of times people say, Bennett, I can't come up with 6 to 9 months. Okay, start with 500 or 1,000. But that emergency fund needs to be cash in an account, not a credit card. You really don't want it to be. We need to make sure we're putting in retirement. We need to make sure, I strongly suggest folks Christmas club savings to take care of Christmas, so you're not scrambling at Christmas time and using the credit cards. All of those things, when we have a budget, we're able to put everything down. And I'll tell you, I was working with some clients the other day, and I said, do you guys know you're spending $1,800 a month eating out? And they looked at me and said, you're nuts. And so we took their statements that they gave me when we started talking. I highlight everything. Here's what you're spending in gas. Here's what you're spending. And they didn't realize, but both of them every day go to lunch, and they spend an average of $15 a day, plus steak and lobster on the weekend.
Oh.
When you start adding all that stuff up. So what that budget allows you to do is, here are the things I know I have to pay: rent, electricity. Those are my needs. Then these other ancillary things, I need to be taking a turkey sandwich or a peanut butter sandwich. So that budget says, wow. And this couple said, we did not know. We don't write it down. We didn't know. So that budget puts everything in your face, and you're allowed to look at those areas that you can move money from to make sure you're paying your bills.
Now, when it comes to generating a budget, are there any type of tips that you can provide to the audience with respect to what they need to look for, how they need to structure their budget?
Absolutely. And I'll make it real simple. 4 simple steps. Know how much money you earn. Make sure you understand all of your income, especially as I work with couples. Sometimes people put money aside and one spouse doesn't know. When we sit down doing this, everything goes on the table. So know what you earn. The second thing is, make sure you're putting things, you're thinking about emergency funds, your retirement, if you want a vacation. That should be something that's in the budget. All of those simple things need to be in the budget. Everything that we're thinking about, we need to put in there. 529s, college funds for kids. All of these things should be something you put in there. The other things is, understand what your needs are. And those needs are things that you need every day: the roof over your head, the electricity bill, the water bill, the food. So make sure that all of this is in there. A lot of times people ask me, how much should I be spending? Well, it's hard to say. A family of 2 is going to spend less than a family of 4. But the main thing is that you're budgeted. Look, I take my Wednesday flyers out of the. My kids laugh at me because they're all grown. I still do a grocery store budget. I pull the flyers out. I get my chicken breast at 98 cents a pound. I write a list when I go in the store. I don't need the M&Ms on the end cap, but I'm going to take every item, and that's what I'm going in for. It's in my budget. That's what I'm going to spend. That's what it does for you. It keeps you, it maintains what you, and you can see what I'm spending. So ancillary type things like eating out, no, I'm going out too much. I need to curve that, make that change. The other areas I think people should look at when you're doing those budgets: cable, phone. We've got phone companies, Consumer Cellular, Republic Cellular. These are online phone companies. $25 a line, unlimited text and call. Unlimited. I'll see people with one phone that have a $160 a month bill. let's look deep at that stuff. Do we really need it? Do you need all the stations? Do you need, you know, that budget allows us, as we put all that together, to look at those areas. And when I sit down with you to talk about your budget, I'm going to drill down to each of those things.
Okay. So, in essence, if you can adopt a good budget, that will put you on the path to being more financially responsible.
Absolutely.
Okay. And the financial responsibility is what will help you towards improving your credit score.
Absolutely. Everything's accounted for.
Okay. Now, let's talk about ways in which a person who, let's say, does not have a credit history, how can they start off with at least trying to establish credit?
It's a great question. What is sad is today we have to, we have to have it because it touches so many parts of our lives. The first thing you want to do is, and what I teach folks is, keep as minimal cards as you can, because the more cards you start going after, you forget which one you paid, and before you know it, it's impacting your credit. So what I do is, if you have never had credit, or you think, and a lot of times when you get, and please make sure you're pulling your annual credit report you get free from each one of the agencies each year. Make sure, I always tell folks, pull the Equifax first, because that has most of the information in the South is feeding to Equifax. So go through that detail, make sure that this information belongs to you. You know, Smith, Johnson's, real common names, Williams. Sometimes there'll be errors on those things. Twins, because there's one digit different in social security numbers. Juniors, seniors.
Makes sense.
But everyone needs to make sure they're pulling that credit and reviewing it to make sure it all belongs to you, because you want to fix that. And that's why I pull one at a time, because then I fix it and you can see on the next one. So that's real critical to folks, to make sure that they're getting their credit and that they understand what it is. You know, if you go to a credit repair place, they're just going to dispute it and say, go buy your stuff. But when it belongs to you, it's coming back to you at the end of the day.
Now, credit repair places is something that we're going to talk about a little later. I
Yeah.
definitely want to talk
Yeah.
about them. But when we come back from this break, I want to talk about whether or not you're in favor of secured credit cards and if those are beneficial to consumers.